Abuja. A young black nursing student's golden life shatters in a single day. Naomi Okoro buries both parents, then watches her uncle strip her legacy to the bone. From marble halls to a leaking room, she clings to dignity, studying by candlelight while the city laughs. Only one stranger steps toward her, a black man the world calls mad, with eyes that promise shelter. Love grows in the ashes. Then danger snaps its chains. Kidnapped, cornered, forced to sign away her name, Naomi hears engines roll like thunder. The madman arrives, shorn, armored in power, a king unmasked. Empires shift, thieves tremble, and a black woman becomes what grief could not break, a queen.
Naomi Okoro was only 19 when her entire world collapsed. She was in her third year at the University of Abuja, studying nursing, following in her mother's footsteps. Her dream was simple, yet noble, to heal the way her mother healed, to bring comfort where fear lived. Her father, Chief Naomi Okoro, was a respected auto parts dealer in the bustling markets of the city. Tall, charismatic, always smelling of cologne and engine oil, he was admired not just for his wealth, but for his generosity. He often reminded Naomi, "Money is a tool, never a throne. The moment you bow to it, poverty has already won." Her mother, Nurse Grace Okoro, was the pride of the National Hospital. Skilled, compassionate, and admired by her colleagues, she was known in the community as Mama Comfort. At home, though, she was simply Mama, sliding plates of food across the table and teasing Naomi, "Even a student nurse cannot learn on an empty stomach." Together, they made their home in Abuja feel like a small kingdom. Saturdays were for charity at the orphanage, Sundays for church. Laughter filled their duplex, and even on the busiest days, they gathered around the dinner table to share stories. Naomi believed her family's love was unshakable, a fortress against the storms of life. But storms do not knock before they break the sky. One bright morning, life changed forever. Grace kissed her husband's cheek before heading out for a double shift. Chief Nandi promised to stop by the market, then surprise her with fresh pineapple later. Naomi grabbed her nursing books, laughing when her mother gave her yet another reminder, "Be careful on the road." They drove out of the compound in separate cars, honking goodbye to the gate man. None of them knew it would be their last ordinary morning. Later that day, the phone rang in the lab. Naomi ignored it at first, focused on her practical exam, but the calls kept coming. Finally, she answered. "Is this Miss Naomi Okoro?" "Yes," she said cautiously. "Please come to the National Hospital immediately." Her world tilted. She didn't ask questions, she ran. Traffic mocked her urgency. She begged a taxi driver, tears streaming as the city blurred past. When she finally reached the hospital, the silence in the corridors told her everything before the words did. A doctor stepped forward. "We did everything we could. Your mother, internal bleeding, she's gone." Naomi staggered, clutching the wall. But before grief could even settle, another voice whispered the second blow. "Your father, too. Chief Nandi didn't make it." The universe collapsed. The burial came too soon. 2 coffins were lowered side by side, dust rising into the unforgiving air. Wails filled the cemetery, some sincere, some rehearsed. Naomi stood trembling, clutching a handful of earth. "How do I go on now, Mama? How do I live, Papa?" she whispered as the soil slipped through her fingers. Among the mourners was Victor Chike, her father's cousin. He cried the loudest, falling to his knees, shouting to the heavens, "Why, God? Why now?" To outsiders, it looked like love. To Naomi, it felt like the only shoulder left. He wrapped her in his arms, smelling of alcohol, but performing sorrow so convincingly that no one questioned him. When the mourners left, silence swallowed the mansion. Her mother's scarf still draped lazily over a chair. Her father's cap sat waiting on the console for a head that would never wear it again. Naomi wandered into their room and found her mother's Bible lying open on the bed. A verse was underlined. "When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I." She pressed her forehead against the page and wept until the ink blurred with tears. That night, Victor Chike stood at the window of the mansion, his face carefully arranged into sorrow. Finally, he turned to Naomi and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry," he said softly. "You are not alone. Your father's businesses need steady hands. I will manage them. You focus on school. Let me carry this burden." Naomi, drowning in grief, whispered, "Thank you, Uncle." He smiled faintly, but the smile never touched his eyes. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you're watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Outside, the night fell heavy over Abuja. The Okoro mansion, once alive with joy, now echoed with emptiness. Naomi believed her uncle's words were kindness, but what she did not know was that she had inherited not just her parents' grief, but also their greatest enemy.
After the funeral, the Okoro mansion felt like an abandoned palace. The house that once echoed with laughter now carried only silence and the faint scent of incense that clung to the air after the burial rites. Naomi sat in the living room, her eyes fixed on the framed portraits of her parents, now draped with black cloth. The mourners had left, the choir's hymns had faded, and the servants had all quietly slipped away. She was 19 years old and utterly alone. That night, Victor Chike arrived. He was her late father's cousin, a man who had always lingered around family gatherings but never truly belonged. He entered the mansion dressed in white agbada, his eyes red as though he had wept all day. Naomi, raw with grief, saw him collapse before her parents' portraits, wailing so loudly the neighbors could hear. "Naomi," he said in a trembling voice, "you are not alone. Your father was my brother in all but blood. I will care for you. I will carry this family." Naomi, still clinging to the hope of protection, broke down and hugged him. She whispered, "Thank you, Uncle. I don't know what to do without them." For the first few weeks, Victor played his role to perfection. He made sure Naomi ate. He drove her to campus when she was too shaken to take the bus. He even invited a few relatives over to pray with her. To the outside world, he looked like a guardian angel stepping in for a shattered orphan. Neighbors nodded with approval. At least she has family. At least she is not alone. But soon, cracks began to show. One afternoon, Naomi returned from lectures and froze at the sight of two strangers driving her father's Lexus out of the compound. She rushed inside, panic rising in her chest. "Uncle Victor, why are they taking Papa's car?" Victor smiled smoothly, sipping palm wine as though nothing was wrong. "The car was only gathering dust. Besides, your father had debts. I sold it to cover expenses. It's all for you, my dear. Don't worry." Her stomach clenched. Her father never mentioned any debts. But she was young, inexperienced, and too broken to challenge him. Days later, the betrayal deepened. Naomi walked past her father's auto parts shop, the business that had paid her school fees and fed dozens of workers. The sign above the shop no longer read Okoro and Sons. It had been replaced with bold new letters, Chike Auto Imports. She felt her knees weaken. Bursting into the office, she confronted him. "Uncle Victor, how could you? This was Papa's legacy. You cannot just erase his name." He leaned back in the chair that once belonged to her, a sly smile curving his lips.
Naomi, you're too young to understand business. A name means nothing if the business dies. Trust me, I'm keeping this afloat. One day you will thank me." But his eyes betrayed him, cold, calculating, hungry. She saw it for a fleeting moment, but couldn't find the strength to fight. In less than 3 months, Victor stripped her family's empire bare. The bank called, informing Naomi that the accounts had been emptied. The warehouses, the land, the investments, all were gone. Every signature bore his name. Desperate, she stormed into his office. "You've stolen everything. Those businesses belong to me." Victor set his glass down with deliberate calm and rose to his feet. His voice was soft, but each word cut like glass. "Listen carefully, child. You are a girl with no money, no husband, no power. Do you really think the courts will take your side against me? Do you even have the money for a lawyer? Without me, you are nothing. You have no home, no inheritance, not even food. You should be grateful I'm allowing you to stay under this roof at all." Naomi trembled. Her heart screamed with anger, but her mouth could not form the words. He had trapped her completely. That night, he made his final move. "Pack your things," Victor ordered coldly. "This mansion is far too big for you. From tomorrow, you will live in a small room near campus. I will manage the estate. That is final." The staff, who once greeted her as baby madam, now turned away in silence. Some relatives even nodded in agreement. Victor is right. She's too young. Let him handle it. And so, with a single suitcase and a few faded clothes, Naomi left the mansion where she was born. The room she was forced into was little more than a shack. The ceiling leaked when it rained. The fan hung broken from the ceiling, and rats scurried across the floorboards at night. Naomi sat on the thin mattress, her knees pulled to her chest, staring at the cracked wall until tears streamed down her face. But as the hours dragged by, she remembered her mother's words. "Finish what you started. No matter what happens, you are still a nurse in the making." Naomi lit a small candle, opened her textbooks, and began to study. Hunger gnawed at her stomach. The whispers of neighbors outside mocked her, from riches to rags, from princess to pauper. But she clenched her jaw and whispered to herself, "I will not give up. Papa, Mama, I will honor you." She did not yet know that out there in the dust and chaos of Abuja, a man the world called mad was watching her. His hair was wild, his clothes torn, his slippers mismatched, but his eyes, steady, sharp, unbroken, were fixed on her. And soon he would step into her life in a way no one could ever imagine.
Naomi Okoro had been born into privilege, but within weeks of her parents' funeral, her life had been stripped bare. The mansion she once called home was no longer hers. Victor Chike had ordered her out, claiming the estate was too large for a girl her age to maintain. She begged him to reconsider, reminding him of her father's words. But he silenced her with one sharp sentence. "You are young, unmarried, and powerless. If not for me, you would have nothing. Be grateful I'm giving you even a roof over your head." And so, Naomi was forced into a tiny one-room apartment near campus, a shack compared to the luxurious duplex where she had grown up. The room had a cracked ceiling fan that never worked. The window pane was broken, stuffed with cardboard. When it rained, water leaked through the roof, dripping into a rusted basin she kept in the corner. The walls were stained, the mattress thin and sagging. Neighbors whispered as she passed. Students who once envied her wealth now mocked her fall. Look at Chief Namdi's daughter, from driving SUVs to begging for rides." Another smirked. "Her uncle was right. She'll end up as someone's housemaid." She heard every word, each sentence cut like a blade, but she refused to let them see her cry. Instead, she straightened her back, carried her books, and walked on. Hunger soon became her most persistent companion. Some nights, she drank only water before bed. Other nights, she scraped together enough money for a handful of gari mixed with groundnuts. One evening, after hours of studying under the dim candlelight, her stomach growled so loudly it echoed in the empty room. She pressed her hand against it, whispering, "Mama, Papa, give me strength." When her classmates went out for dinner, she stayed behind, pretending she had already eaten. Pride would not allow her to beg. Even worse than hunger were Victor's taunts. He occasionally visited, not to help, but to mock her. He arrived in flashy cars, bought with her father's stolen wealth, his wife dressed in expensive lace. "Naomi, life humbles everyone," Victor said, one scorching afternoon, sipping from a chilled glass of palm wine while she stood barefoot at the door. "If you had listened to me, things would be different. Who will marry you now? Who will save you?" His wife joined in with a cruel smile. "Yes, who would want a girl who lost everything? Better accept your fate." Her chest tightened with rage, but she swallowed it. She refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. Yet, despite everything, she clung to dignity. She studied relentlessly, often under streetlights when her candle burnt out. She walked long distances to class when she had no money for transportation. Her uniform grew old and faded, but she washed it carefully, ironing it with determination, reminding herself she was still a student nurse. One night, while rereading her notes, she remembered her mother's last underlined verse in the Bible. "When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I." She whispered it over and over, as though the words themselves could keep her standing. But the world was merciless. At church, the women who once admired her mother now whispered behind her back. "She used to sit in the front pew," one murmured. "Now look at her. God has truly humbled her." On campus, some male students laughed openly, pointing at her worn-out shoes. "Chief's daughter is walking like a beggar." It was humiliation layered upon humiliation. And yet Naomi endured. Because somewhere deep in her heart, she still believed she was more than her suffering. One particularly brutal afternoon, with the Abuja sun burning overhead, Naomi staggered home from class, her body weak from lack of food. Dust clung to her shoes, and her head throbbed. As she turned the corner toward her apartment, she saw him, a man people avoided. His hair was wild, his shirt torn, his slippers mismatched. He shuffled along the street, muttering under his breath, carrying a bag full of scraps. Children pointed and laughed, women hissed, men shook their heads in pity. "See that madman again?" a vendor scoffed. "Government should take him away." But when Naomi's eyes met his, she froze. Because his eyes weren't empty. They weren't wild. They were steady, sharp, almost piercing. The so-called madman stopped, reached into his plastic bag, and pulled out a loaf of bread. He held it out toward her without a word. Naomi frowned, confused. "For me?" He nodded. Her pride made her hesitate. "I can't take this. I don't even know you." But her stomach betrayed her, growling loudly in the silence. His lips twitched into the faintest smile, and he pressed the bread into her hands before walking away. Naomi stood there trembling, staring after him. The laughter of children still echoed, but all she could think of was the clarity in his eyes. That night, as she tore the bread into pieces under the flickering candlelight, tears spilled onto her lap. It was the first full meal she had eaten in 2 days. For the first time since her parents' death, Naomi whispered into the darkness, "Thank you." She did not know his name yet. She did not know his story. But the man the world called mad would soon become the only ally she had left. From that day on, Naomi began to notice the so-called madman everywhere. He appeared on street corners, near the bus stop, sometimes outside the campus gate. His hair hung in dreadlocks, his clothes were always filthy, and his slippers never matched. To the world, he was an eyesore. Vendors hissed when he passed by. Mothers pulled their children close. "Stay away from him," they warned. "He's cursed." But to Naomi, something was different. Each time their eyes met, she saw no madness, only an unsettling calm, as if he carried secrets the world had no right to know. One evening, as Naomi stood at the campus gate waiting for a bus, she noticed him standing a few feet away. The students nearby began to whisper and laugh. "Look, Chief Namdi's daughter has a new boyfriend," one boy mocked. "The madman." Another girl snorted. "First, she lost her house. Now she walks with lunatics. How the mighty have fallen." Their laughter was cruel, their words sharp. Naomi's face burned with shame. She turned away, blinking back tears. But when she glanced back at him, the madman wasn't laughing. He wasn't broken. He just looked at her with quiet strength. And strangely, that strength steadied her. A few days later, Naomi returned home from lectures, exhausted and hungry. On her doorstep lay a small nylon bag. Inside was bread, sardines, and a crumpled note with 3 shaky words written in pencil. "Don't give up." Her throat tightened. She pressed the note to her chest, tears spilling down her cheeks. No relative had done this for her. No neighbor. Not even the church. Only him. The man everyone mocked. Soon, his presence became a lifeline. Sometimes he left small bundles of money, barely enough for tuition, but always at the exact moment she needed it. Other times, he brought textbooks she couldn't afford, sliding them quietly into her hands before walking away. He never explained where they came from. "Why are you doing this?" Naomi asked once, her voice breaking. He simply shrugged, avoiding her eyes. "Finish school," he murmured. "Become the nurse your mother wanted you to be." The bond between them deepened. At first, Naomi felt conflicted, grateful but embarrassed by the ridicule she faced. Rumors spread through campus like wildfire. "She's the madman's girlfriend," they whispered. "She will end up just like him." When the gossip reached Victor Chique, he summoned her to his home. He sat in the parlor with his wife by his side, both of them smirking. "So it's true," Victor began, his voice dripping with mock sympathy. "The daughter of my late cousin now walking around with a lunatic." Naomi swallowed hard. "Uncle, he is not what people think. He has been kind to me when no one else cared." Victor burst into cruel laughter, slapping his thigh. "Kind? What can a madman give you? Rags? Bones? Insults? If this is how you want to honor your father's name, then go ahead, marry him." His wife added with a cackle, "At least you'll have company in the gutter." Tears filled Naomi's eyes, but her voice was steady. "Mock me if you want, but at least he does not steal from me like you stole from my father." The words struck like thunder. Victor's face darkened, veins bulging on his forehead. "You dare talk to me like that? Foolish girl." Naomi left trembling, but for the first time, she felt a strange pride. She had spoken the truth. Weeks turned into months. Life grew even harder, yet every time Naomi was on the verge of breaking, he appeared. One night, she returned home to find an envelope under her door. Inside was 50,000 naira, enough for her semester fees. On the back of the envelope, written in the same shaky handwriting, were the words, "Hold on." She clutched it to her chest, sobbing. From that moment, Naomi stopped seeing him as the world did. The dreadlocks and ragged clothes no longer mattered. She saw the gentleness, the courage, the loyalty that kept him by her side when everyone else abandoned her. And when he finally asked, in his quiet, awkward way, if she would marry him, Naomi said yes. Not because she had no other choice, but because she had seen what others had not. A man who stood with her when the entire world turned away. Their wedding was small, held in a modest church with just a pastor and 2 witnesses. No music, no feast, no convoy, only vows whispered like fragile promises. People mocked louder than ever. Chief's daughter married a lunatic. God has punished her for her stubbornness. Victor laughed until tears rolled down his cheeks. So this is it, my niece, married to a lunatic. Truly, shame runs in your bloodline. But as Naomi stood beside him, her hand trembling yet firm in his, she felt peace for the first time in years. She was no longer alone. What she didn't know, what no one knew, was that the man she married, the man the world spat on, carried a secret powerful enough to shake the city to its core.
Marriage was supposed to bring joy, but for Naomi and David it brought harsher trials. Their new home was a tiny one-room apartment with cracked walls and a roof that leaked whenever it rained. The mattress was thin, the cupboard old, and the kerosene stove barely worked. When the Abuja sun scorched, the room turned into an oven. When the rains came, water pooled into buckets. David scrambled the place around the floor. Food was scarce. Many nights they shared nothing but gari and groundnuts. Sometimes dinner was just water. Yet somehow, David always managed to find enough to cover Naomi's tuition and textbooks. He would press crumpled notes into her hand and mutter, "Don't worry about me. Just focus on your dream." Naomi would stare at the money, puzzled. "Where do you keep getting this, David?" He avoided her eyes. "Maybe God touched someone's heart. Use it for your education." Tears stung her eyes. She clasped his rough, calloused hand. "Even if the world calls you mad, to me, you are my angel." But outside their fragile love nest, ridicule only grew louder. Victor Chike threw a feast when he heard of their wedding, not to celebrate, but to mock. Surrounded by neighbors and relatives, he lifted a glass of wine and declared, "Ladies and gentlemen, our dear Naomi has chosen wisely. She has married a madman. Let us drink to her foolishness." The crowd roared with laughter. His wife, dressed in lace bought with stolen Okoro wealth, sneered, "At least she doesn't have to worry about rent. Mad people are used to sleeping on the streets." Word spread across Abuja. Strangers whispered when Naomi passed, "Look at her. That's the madman's wife. She used to be so beautiful. Now she's wasting her life." Each word was a dagger, but Naomi lifted her chin, holding her dignity like armor. David, meanwhile, lived a double life. Each morning, after leaving the apartment in his dirty clothes, he vanished into places Naomi could never imagine. He wasn't scavenging or begging as people thought. He was quietly meeting with staff from his vast empire, signing checks, giving orders, moving pieces across the chessboard of his businesses. By evening, he returned to the tiny room, deliberately dust-covered, dreadlocks untamed, slipping back into the role the world believed. To everyone else, he was a beggar. To Naomi, he was a husband who fetched water before dawn, who sang softly when she felt overwhelmed, who never let her feel abandoned. One evening, Naomi rushed home from campus, her eyes wide open with disbelief. "David, the school said my tuition is fully paid for the semester. How? Who did this?" David sat quietly, pretending to repair a broken lantern. "Maybe someone was moved by God," he murmured. Naomi dropped to her knees, hugging him tightly. "You don't know what this means to me. I thought I would have to drop out, but now I can finish Mama's dream." David held her close, his heart torn.
joy that she loved him even in disguise, sorrow that he could not yet tell her the truth. Their love blossomed in small ways. Naomi discovered that happiness wasn't luxury. It was David bringing water before dawn, or watching her read by candlelight, or singing when storms rattled their roof. One evening, as rain drummed against the leaking tin, Naomi whispered, "Even if I never wear a wedding gown, even if I never live in a mansion, I'll never regret marrying you. When the world mocked me, you stood by me. When I had nothing, you gave me something. You are my treasure." David's eyes burned with emotion. He turned away so she wouldn't see the tears threatening to fall. To the world, he was a madman, but in her eyes, he was king. Then came the day Naomi discovered she was pregnant. She stared at the test strip in disbelief, her hand trembling against her stomach. Tears filled her eyes, tears of joy, fear, and uncertainty. Joy because it was proof of their love. Fear because poverty already suffocated them. When she told David, his face lit with the widest smile she had ever seen. He dropped to his knees, kissing her belly gently. "Our child," he whispered, "born of fire and love." Naomi sobbed, clutching his shoulders. "How will we raise a child like this, David? We have nothing." He pressed his forehead against hers. "We may have nothing in their eyes, but our child will have love. That is more than enough." But outside their fragile love nest, the news spread like poison. Victor laughed until his voice cracked. "A madman's child? This is the final shame. She has dragged her father's name into the dust." His wife sneered, "Let her rot with her lunatic. They will both die in poverty." They began to plot to make Naomi's life even harder, scheming to lure her back to the mansion under the pretense of reconciliation. Their true plan was to lock her away and force her to sign over the last of her father's estate. Yet destiny was already moving, because the child Naomi carried would not be born into shame, and the man the world spat on as a lunatic was preparing to reveal a truth powerful enough to silence every mocking tongue. The news of Naomi's pregnancy spread like wildfire, and in the mouths of enemies, blessings turned into weapons. When Victor Chaike heard, he didn't rage, he smiled. It was the satisfied smile of a man who believed destiny had handed him the perfect chain to bind what he could not break. That evening he turned to his wife. "Call her," he ordered smoothly, swirling palm wine in his glass. "Tell her it is time for family to stand by family. Tell her she should not be alone while carrying life." His wife, dripping in gold bangles bought with stolen wealth, dialed with a sugary voice. "My daughter, come tomorrow. Let us reconcile. Blood is thicker than water. You must not carry this burden alone." Naomi, sitting in her dimly lit apartment with her hand resting on the small curve of her belly, wanted desperately to believe in miracles, that grief had softened her uncle's heart, that maybe family still meant safety. Against David's warning gaze, she whispered, "Maybe they have changed. Maybe they remember I am their own." David studied her face, his jaw tight. "If you go, you will not go alone." The next afternoon, they walked together to the Chaike compound. At the gate, 2 guards blocked David, sneering. "Madman, go back. Oga said you cannot enter." Naomi's voice trembled but firmed. "He is my husband. Where I go, he goes." From the veranda, Victor appeared, smiling as though welcoming royalty. "My dear, come inside. A pregnant woman should not stand under the sun. Let her enter. You wait outside." David met Naomi's eyes. He brushed his knuckles gently against her cheek. "I'll be near. If anything changes, knock, I will hear." Naomi nodded, heart torn, and stepped inside. At first, the welcome seemed genuine. Victor's wife served her mango juice and called her our daughter. They spoke of hospitals, schools, and baby clothes. Naomi allowed herself a fragile smile, daring to believe reconciliation was possible. But when night fell, the tone shifted. Naomi was shown to a guest room in the back quarters. She lay down exhausted, only to wake in the middle of the night to the sound of keys scraping metal. Heavy footsteps echoed. When she tried the door, it wouldn't budge. She was locked in. Her heart pounded as a small slot opened in the wooden door. Victor's eye appeared, cold and flat. "Rest," he said evenly. "You need discipline and distance. That madman will not ruin you further. Sign these papers, Naomi, and all will be well." Her voice shook with fury. "I am your brother's child. You cannot do this. My brother is gone. If you love him, you will sign. Paper is power." The slot slammed shut. Days bled into each other. She was fed bowls of watery pap, sometimes plain rice without salt, sometimes nothing. A bucket in the corner replaced dignity. Heat smothered her body. The baby kicked as if to remind her, "Don't give up on me." When the house generator roared, Naomi pressed her ear to the barred window, listening to servants' gossip, catching fragments of laughter and clattering dishes. She whispered to her unborn child, "I will not let them sell us into the dark. I promise." Victor visited often with documents, coaxing and threatening in equal measure. His wife taunted her, sliding perfume through the cracks as though to mock her confinement. But Naomi saved her strength. She stretched, prayed, whispered her mother's psalms until they felt like breath itself. On the third night, hope came in the form of a soft tick-tick at the window. Naomi's breath caught. She pressed her face to the bars. "David," she whispered. He was half shadow, half man, eyes burning with quiet fire. "Don't speak," he murmured. Through the bars he slid a sachet of clean water, prenatal vitamins, and bread wrapped in newspaper. Tears blinded Naomi as she clutched the gifts. He had thought of everything, for her, for the child. She unfolded the small note tucked inside. 4 words, "Hold fast, 2 days." She pressed it against her heart. The next morning, Victor arrived with a new tactic, religion twisted into a chain. He brought a self-proclaimed pastor who placed his hand on the locked door and shouted, "Spirit of madness, leave this family! Spirit of shame, depart!" Naomi sat calmly on the floor, her back against the wall. She had seen true pastors who healed with love. This one threatened her with doom. "If you refuse to sign, calamity will follow you," he bellowed. Real prophecy does not come with blackmail. The false pastor stormed off in rage. Victor's hiss followed through the wood. "Stubborn girl." That night, another ally appeared. A middle-aged woman from the neighboring compound approached the window while washing dishes outside. She whispered, "Your husband gave me money to help you." Sliding a small bowl of okra soup through the bars, she added, "They say he is mad, but I look into his eyes and see sense beyond books. Hold on, my dear. God is not asleep." Naomi clutched the food, sobbing with gratitude. Meanwhile, across Abuja, in a modest office lit by dim bulbs, David's hidden identity emerged. He sat at a table stacked with files, surrounded by loyal aides and lawyers. His dreadlocks were tucked under a cap, his shirt plain but pressed. His voice was low, precise, commanding. 2 days, he told them. She must be out in peace before war begins. His chief of staff nodded. Bankers flagged fraudulent transfers under Victor's name. Lawyers prepared affidavits. Court clerks readied stamps. Every piece of evidence, every record of theft was gathered like ammunition. David's eyes softened only once. "He has been alone long enough," he whispered. Back at the compound, Naomi felt her baby kick harder. She held her stomach and whispered, "We are closer to freedom than they know." Outside, neighbors heard the growl of expensive Indians rolling into the street. Not police, not government. Something heavier, quieter, more powerful. And though Naomi could not yet see it, the world she thought had abandoned her was about to shake beneath the truth.
The second day dawned heavy, as though the Abuja sky itself was burdened with a secret it could no longer keep. Inside the storeroom where Naomi was locked, the air was thick and stale. She sat against the wall, one hand spread across her stomach, whispering to her unborn child, "Hold on, my love. Freedom is close." Then it came, the sound that made the entire neighborhood pause. Engines, not one, but many, deep, commanding growls that rolled through the streets like thunder. People rushed to windows, children clung to fences. Even the guards at Victor Chike's gate stiffened. One by one, black SUVs turned into the compound street. Their bodies gleamed in the sun, tinted windows reflecting blinding light. At the center of the convoy was a silver Rolls-Royce Phantom, its hood ornament shining like a crown. The guards at the gate exchanged nervous looks. Who are these people? Police? Army? But there were no sirens, no uniforms, just quiet authority, heavier than any badge. Victor stepped onto the veranda, his wrapper flapping in the breeze, his wife hurrying behind him. Both froze when the convoy halted outside their gate. Neighbors gathered, whispering, "Who is this? Who has such power?" Then the door of the Rolls-Royce opened. The man who stepped out was unrecognizable and yet unmistakable. Gone were the dreadlocks, the rags, the mismatched slippers. His hair was trimmed sharp, his beard neatly lined. He wore a navy blue Italian suit that clung like royalty had stitched it. A gold watch glinted on his wrist. His stride was measured, shoulders broad, aura unshakable. It was David, the so-called madman. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Victor staggered backward, gripping the railing. His wife whispered hoarsely, "Jesus, it's him, the madman!" But there was nothing mad in the man walking towards them now. There was only power. David didn't even glance at Victor. He walked past the guards, past the neighbors, past the murmurs. His steps were steady, purposeful. He headed straight for the back of the compound. Inside the storeroom, Naomi heard footsteps, different from Victor's heavy ones, different from the guards. Her heart raced. She pressed her ear to the door just as the bolt scraped metal. For the first time in days, the door swung open. And there he was. Not in rags, not in shame, not in disguise. David filled the doorway in a suit worth more than the entire compound. His eyes clear and unbroken, locked. Naomi's knees weakened. "David?" she gasped, clutching her stomach. He stepped forward, catching her trembling frame. "Yes, Naomi, it's me. The man you married, the man they mocked, but also the man they never knew." Her eyes darted over him in disbelief, from his polished shoes to the gold watch glinting under the chandelier light. This cannot be real." David cupped her chin, forcing her to meet his steady gaze. "I am not who they said I was. I am not mad. I never was. My name is David Oba. I am CEO of Obatech, one of Africa's largest tech companies. I own oil, real estate, and investments across the world. I am worth billions, Naomi." Her lips parted, but no words came. Tears pooled in her eyes. "All this time you were—" "Yes," he interrupted softly. "I disguised myself because I needed something money could not buy. I needed to know who could love me. Not my empire, not my wealth, but me. And you
You saw me when the world spat on me. You defended me when they mocked me. You married me when they said I was nothing." Her sobs broke free as she clutched his chest, her tears soaking into his suit. "Oh God, all this time I thought you had nothing." David pulled her tighter. "Because love tested in riches is easy, but love tested in shame is pure. And you, Naomi, you passed." Behind them, Victor and his wife staggered into the storeroom doorway, their faces pale. This is a trick," he stammered. "He was mad. Everyone saw it." David turned slowly, his voice low but sharp enough to cut glass. "Mad? That is what you called me? That is how you humiliated her? Tell me, Victor, does a madman command fleets of Rolls-Royces? Does a lunatic control empires you cannot even dream of?" Victor's throat went dry. His wife dropped to her knees. "Please forgive us. We didn't know." "Silence!" David thundered, his voice echoing across the compound. Even the guards froze. He turned back to Naomi, his expression softening. "Come, leave this place. It no longer deserves your tears." As he led her out of the compound, the convoy doors opened. Uniformed staff bowed their heads respectfully. A chauffeur stepped forward, holding the Rolls-Royce door open with reverence. Naomi gasped, her hand flying to her lips. All this is yours?" David smiled faintly. "No, it's ours. You, me, and our child. Everything I have, everything I am, it belongs to us." She stepped into the car as neighbors watched in stunned silence. The same people who once mocked her now whispered in awe, "So the madman is a billionaire, and she is his queen." As the convoy rolled away, David took her hand. His voice was low, but each word carried steel. "Naomi, I made a promise. The day I revealed my true self would be the day I began to set things right. Victor thought he buried you in shame, but all he buried was his own destruction. I will recover everything he stole, and when I am done, he will kneel before you." Naomi's tears flowed again, but this time they were not of sorrow. They were tears of relief, of vindication, of a love so powerful it frightened her. For the first time in years, she felt the weight of hope return, steady and unbreakable.
The convoy glided through Abuja like a river of power. Street vendors paused mid-sail. Taxi drivers craned their necks. Market women shaded their eyes. The city buzzed with disbelief. "Is that not the madman?" one man gasped. "No," another whispered. "That's a king." Inside the Rolls-Royce, Naomi sat in stunned silence, her hand locked in David's. Every reflection in the tinted glass reminded her of nights she had been mocked, nights she studied by candlelight while hunger gnawed her stomach. Now she was moving in majesty. The convoy stopped before golden gates that guarded a sprawling estate. Armed men in crisp uniforms saluted sharply. "Welcome home, sir. Welcome, madam." Naomi's breath caught. "David, this cannot be yours." He smiled softly. "It is ours. Everything you see, everything I own, it belongs to us." The gates swung open. Beyond them stretched manicured lawns, marble fountains, and palm trees swaying like sentinels. At the center stood a mansion of glass and gold, its balconies gleaming in the afternoon sun. Naomi pressed her trembling hands to her lips. "No, this cannot be mine. I am the girl they mocked, the one who married a madman. I ate Gary at night. I begged for help. How can this be mine?" David stopped, taking her hands firmly. "Naomi, you were never poor. Even when you had nothing, you carried dignity, loyalty, love. That is wealth no thief can steal. You deserve all of this more than anyone." Her tears spilled freely as she buried her face in his chest.
Guards turned their eyes away respectfully. To them, she was no longer a beggar's wife. She was their queen. Inside the mansion, staff lined up in neat rows, bowing deeply. "Welcome, sir," they chorused. Then, with one voice, they added, "Welcome, madam." The word madam struck Naomi like lightning. Once spat on, once mocked, now she was addressed with reverence. She clutched her belly and wept openly. David walked her through the grand hall where chandeliers rained light like diamonds. Marble floors reflected her every step. Naomi remembered the cracked walls of her one-room apartment, the leaking ceiling that forced her to study under buckets. And now this, splendor beyond imagination. "God," she whispered, trembling, "is this truly me?" David knelt beside her, lifting her chin gently. "Yes, this is you. This is us. The world called you a fool for loving me, but today that same world will kneel." For hours, David showed her his empire. In the boardroom, executives in designer suits rose to greet them. "Good evening, sir," they said respectfully, then turned to her. "Good evening, madam." She lowered her eyes, cheeks flushed, unaccustomed to honor. He took her to the tech hub, where engineers tapped furiously on glowing screens building software that powered banks and governments. "This is Obatech," he explained. "We have branches in Lagos, Accra, Nairobi, London, and now, Naomi, this is your world too." She gasped. "You built all this while the world thought you were insane?" David's smile was faint. "Yes, but none of it mattered to me without love, without you." They visited the oil and gas headquarters, the real estate offices, even the charity wing where widows and orphans received scholarships. Everywhere they went, staff bowed deeply, acknowledging her as their queen. Her chest heaved with emotion. "I don't deserve this." David cupped her face tenderly. "You deserve more. You chose love over luxury, loyalty over convenience. You will sit beside me, not behind me." That evening, Naomi stood on the balcony of the mansion, overlooking Abuja's glittering skyline. The city lights stretched endless, promising power and wealth. But her heart remembered the darkness, the ridicule, Victor's laughter, the hunger that once haunted her. Tears streamed down her face. "I was nothing, David. They spat on me. They said I would die with you in poverty. And now?" David's voice was soft but firm. "And now, you are my queen." Naomi smiled through tears. "I am the wife of a king." David placed his hand over her belly. "Our child will never know shame. He will grow with honor, with truth, with love." Naomi sobbed harder, pressing her forehead to his chest. "Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for loving me when I had nothing." David kissed her forehead. "No, Naomi, thank you for loving me when the world thought I was nothing." But even as joy filled their mansion, David knew his mission was unfinished. Later that night, Naomi found him in his private study, surrounded by documents, land titles, and business records. His face was carved from stone. "What is it?" she asked gently. He looked at her belly, then at the papers. "Victor thought he buried you in poverty, but all he buried was his own ruin. Tomorrow I will confront him. Tomorrow he will see me not as a madman, but as the storm he never expected." Naomi shivered both in fear and in anticipation. She walked to him, placed her hands on his, and whispered, "Whatever happens, I stand with you." David's grip tightened. "Then let the world be ready."
The next evening, Victor Chike lounged on his veranda, sipping palm wine. He was at ease, convinced Naomi's pregnancy had sealed her fate, convinced his grip on her father's empire was unbreakable. His wife sat beside him, draped in expensive lace. Then came the sound. Engines. Powerful, unrelenting. Not one, but many, rolling closer like thunder before a storm. Victor froze, the cup halfway to his lips. His wife's face drained of color. Neighbors rushed out of their homes whispering frantically. Who are they coming for? Those are not ordinary cars. Those are war machines. Down the street, a convoy of black SUVs advanced in perfect formation. At the center glided a silver Rolls-Royce Phantom, its crest gleaming in the twilight. The convoy stopped at Victor's gate. Before the guards could react, the heavy gate swung open, not forced, but as if commanded by authority itself. From the Rolls-Royce, David stepped out. Not the ragged man of the past. Not the lunatic Victor had mocked. This was David Oba, the billionaire, the king in his own right. His suit was sharp, his watch gold, his eyes blazing with controlled fire. Behind him, armed security fanned out with military precision. Victor staggered to his feet, his wrapper slipping. You're not mad? David's voice was low, but carried enough weight to silence the entire compound. That is the name fools gave me because they could not understand me. You spat on me. You mocked me. You locked my wife like an animal, and all the while I was building empires you could never dream of. Victor's wife dropped to her knees, clutching at David's shoes. Please, forgive us. We didn't know. David's voice thundered. You knew enough to steal. You knew enough to torment her. And now, you will know judgment. Naomi stepped forward, her belly round with life, her head held high. The same neighbors who once laughed at her at the bus stop now bowed their heads in silence. She stood beside her husband, no longer a victim, but a queen. David turned to Victor, his gaze cutting like a blade. Everything you stole will be returned. Her father's businesses, the land, the accounts, piece by piece, until nothing remains of your lies but dust. Victor's knees shook. Please, don't destroy me. David leaned closer, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. The next time you hear my engines, they will not bring warning. They will bring war. He turned, taking Naomi's hand. Together they walked back to the Rolls-Royce. The convoy roared to life, shaking the ground as it pulled away, leaving Victor trembling in his chair, sweat dripping down his face. The next weeks shook Abuja. Lawyers moved swiftly, exposing fraudulent transfers. Banks froze accounts in Victor's name. Land titles were seized back. Workers once loyal to him deserted overnight, pledging allegiance to David Oba. In court, evidence stacked like a mountain. Victor tried to fight, but every paper, every witness, every account testified against him. His empire crumbled as quickly as it had been stolen. The final blow came when the High Court ruled that all assets belonging to Chief Naomi Okoro must be returned to his daughter, Naomi. Victor collapsed in the courtroom, a broken man. Meanwhile, Naomi stood tall beside David, now carrying their child with pride. She was no longer the girl mocked at the bus stop, no longer the orphan left to starve in a leaking room. She was Madame Naomi Oba, the wife of a billionaire, the heir of her father's legacy, and the mother of a new generation. Neighbors who once spattered her door now greeted her with bows. Women who mocked her whispered her name with reverence. The same city that had labeled her the madman's wife now called her queen. One quiet evening, Naomi stood on the mansion balcony, overlooking the glittering city lights. David joined her, wrapping an arm around her waist, his other hand resting gently on her belly. Our child will never know shame, he whispered. Naomi leaned into him, tears shining in her eyes. No, he will grow with truth, with honor, with love, but most importantly, he will know the power of humility. David kissed her forehead.
and he will know that your mother saved me. Because when the world mocked, you stood firm. You loved me when they thought I was nothing." Naomi smiled softly, pressing her forehead to his chest. "And you gave me hope when I had none." They stood together in silence, the city glowing beneath them, the storm behind them. For the first time in years, Naomi's heart was at peace.